You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Printfinity, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7. The entire crew is here as always. Starting off on the end with my man Jay Moore. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Blessed and highly vaccinated as always.
Okay.
Yep.
A little extra baritone. I hear you.
Hey, man, you know, it's been a long week.
Okay. Fair enough. My man Longevity's in the building. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
Go through this every week, man.
What do we go through every
week?
I answer your question. What more do you want from me?
What more do you want from me?
Real quick, man, before we go, tell the people about your beat tape.
It's dropping on Friday.
That's all I need to know. My
It's
man
called 𝗏𝗲 Hiker.
Check my man out. He nice with it. DJ Jay Diff, what's happening, man?
Salutations.
Oh, Lord, and
what?
a little different that time. He didn't get a little more energy.
Why you have a problem with everybody's
It ain't a problem. I don't want no problems.
I got a problem with you analyzing the energy
no
of
problem.
the energy. Your energy is off from analyzing the energy.
I don't want no problems. My man Red August is in the building. You might hear him giggling. And shout out to the chat. We appreciate y'all as well. They already in here getting to it all through the pre-show, so we appreciate y'all. All right, man, let's go ahead and jump into the rundown. So you know we do lists here and there. 9 times out of 10 they're trash, and we have to make adjustments. But I think y'all gonna like this one. It'll make a little more sense. So Rock the Bell, shout out to LL Cool J, who by the way said on Instagram I saw that he came up with the GOAT phrase, but people don't call him the GOAT. He finds that hilarious. So shout out to LL, man. He said the GOAT, put respect on his name. And my man 𝗏𝗍𝗱 doesn't like that. All right, let's go down the list of the top 20 most underrated hip hop albums. And this is according to Rock the Bells, but it's part 1. So they have it listed as 10 and they start going down. Now, I think I looked at it. I don't know if I know Terry looked at it as well. I don't think Jay Moore and Lone have seen it yet. So I'm curious to see what y'all think. So they have number 10 is my fault, Terry. Q-Tip, Renaissance. We talked about this. We were talking about this versus Amplified about 3-4 episodes ago.
What would you classify? Like, what are the criterion for like something being underground or underrated? I'm just asking that in general.
I would probably say an album that people don't generally talk about often that was quietly dope, possibly.
I
So
think
would that be mainstream or would that be?
I think underrated albums, they come up as underrated a lot in conversation. You see what I'm saying? When you start talking about albums that are underrated, the same ones more than likely tend to come up, for me at least, whenever I've had that conversation. You start hearing some of the, the ones that people think are underrated. But do you all agree with that? Renaissance?
I would say probably amongst my circle, we all mess with the Renaissance.
Right.
So,
That's why I kind of asked the question, because
Yeah.
it's like, who to whom?
Mm-hmm.
You
but
know,
you got to understand too, and this ain't saying that we're better or any indifferent than anybody else, but
right.
People's ears are different. So generally, the people that you're around, I mean, you have similar interests. So musically, I know a lot of us share the same kind of music interests. So to us, it's not an underrated album because it's going to be somewhere in our fold.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the outside looking in, it's a minority favor. You know what I'm saying? So
are any of you surprised that this is coming from Rock the Bells, which is geared more towards a more mature audience, if you will?
I think the people who are in tune with Rock the Bells would not think that this particular album is. I remember when it came out and it was very much lauded by, the quote unquote mainstream press that covers hip hop. Right. Did it do the numbers? I don't honestly, I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I think part of the reason it was also a really kind of crazy shift in how music was being consumed at that time. I remember I was running a record pool, and might have been after, so to where like you know, they weren't even sending DJs vinyl anymore.
Right.
You know, people they were really getting away. It was kind of like, I remember that recession of 2008. I can't remember exactly when the Renaissance came out, but I remember
probably like 04, 05.
Oh no, it's after
later.
that.
It's later than that.
You think of Amplified.
Okay, yeah, you're
it's
right.
later.
But I just remember that there was this weird kind of depression that hit the music industry before it hit the rest of the country around that time, to where, you know, we're used to like big budget releases coming out and doing 500,000-600,000, and all of a sudden they were doing like 150 and 2, and everybody was like, well, what's going on? And people had just, you know, were starting to get away from buying records, you know, not only because there was no streaming at the time. It was just like, okay, people were just going to download the 1 or 2 songs they liked off of iTunes, or there were still people, you know, just downloading.
Well, you could burn
illegally.
the MP3 CD then that could have 100 songs on it.
So, you know, there was just
That's
a real, you know, I think, I don't know what the rest of the list looks like, but, you know, I think there'll be some other ones that got caught up in that particular sweep of changing how music was being consumed.
Release date November 8th. November 4th, 2008.
That sounds about
so
right.
that's about in that same.
And I would say, and I don't know, for my perspective, I would say it probably was a little underrated for me, because I think I'd never really, I don't want to say I didn't think about it, but I didn't, I don't know, I don't ever think about that album.
But you were on Amplified,
It was heavy in the
right?
snap era too, wasn't it?
That's also like I
Right
said,
after.
what was considered mainstream in hip hop was completely different than what Amplified was.
100%.
Not Amplified, but the
Renaissance
was at that time.
Let's get down the list here. 𝗲𝗏 Internal Affairs.
That's
Number
come on
9.
now.
Kind
Internal
of goes
Affair,
back to the same.
When did this
same
drop?
thing that we talked
99.
about.
This is the one that is no longer available to listen
They
to?
just, I think it's been made available recently.
Hmm.
But we're talking about the one with
Simon Says, right?
Simon Says.
Yeah.
No,
Which-
that's not underrated.
Maybe
Maybe I take that back.
I
Maybe
don't
it's
know,
an entire.
man.
Not the heads.
No.
There it is.
I mean, this is a weird list because, like, you know, these are 2 albums that I don't think are underrated at all.
But you got to take into consideration what, you know, Terry said about our palette, the way we listen to certain things, and the people that you're around. I do believe that, because this one is, I don't hear a lot about this album.
Yeah. I had
we
that
talk
release
about-
date. When it came out, the day it came out, I had it.
Yeah.
I remember, we talked to 𝗲𝗏,
Yeah.
and he, if I remember correctly, didn't he talk about that record some?
He talked about that, and he talked about Desire.
Yeah, and then his new record that he dropped, actually,
Wasn't it-
13th or 13 or whatever.
That album.
I think one of the reasons why this could potentially be considered underrated is because it was left. I mean, it was all sorts of copyright issues.
Yep.
Like Simon Says, I don't even think that is on streaming. I don't think it can be, because they never cleared that sample.
Lone,
Yeah,
it's
'cause
funny
it
you
was the
it's funny you
Godzilla
say that. It
and
says while
Coho had sued them and blocked.
Like Godzilla or something
Yeah.
sample. Or,
it says while it was absent from streaming for years due to sampling issues. Yeah, that's right here underneath the headline.
yeah.
So yeah, you on the money with
So
that.
he,
I think it's other things that, I mean, if you're going to call it underrated, I mean, it just wasn't available for a long time.
that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, if you didn't have the hard
yeah,
copy of that album, you didn't have it.
Yeah, like you couldn't get it anywhere, and you couldn't. I don't even think you could purchase it.
No.
Like even a hard copy.
No, like,
So,
you know,
like,
after a certain
unless-
point, it was out of print.
Yeah.
All right, so number 8, Ultramagnetic MC's Critical Beatdown.
I've heard it, and I think it's super underground. I don't know if I would say underrated.
There's rhyme schemes upon rhyme schemes on this one.
So many people cite Critical Beatdown as an influence. I don't think it can really be considered underrated. You know,
That's fair.
you know, De La Soul talk about how Ultramagnetic was a huge influence on them. You know, so
Can you be influential and still have an influential project that is underrated? Are you saying
I think
Yeah.
all things are
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
possible
you know what
to
I mean?
be influential?
I-
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't
Kind of
know.
goes back to the quote, like,
That's like what 94 or 5?
oh no, it's
Earlier than that
Critical
even?
Beatdown is in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
hmm
That goes way back. Yeah, I have to look it up for this.
It's kind of like when people say your favorite producers, or favorite
Right.
rappers, favorite
Right.
rapper type thing.
Yep.
It's almost like it can be influential to a nice core of people, but not to the masses.
Right. for sure.
All right, so try this for number 7. Diamond D, Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop. And they have Diamond D, the 45 King, Large Pro, and Q-Tip. Enough said. Put underneath.
Yeah, no, I can see that
I can
one.
see that one.
I could definitely see that one.
We in agreement on that one for the most part.
I mean, I think Large Professor is probably the most underrated producer of all time across the board. Because everybody gives him props for being that guy, like from the era. Like,
yeah.
That's facts.
you know, like Premier, Pete Rock, you know, Q-Tip.
Q-Tip, yeah.
You know, like all these guys are just like, Large Professor showed me how to use SP. You know, like, and he's, you know, and he was a good rapper, and you know,
MCs give him
Main
his
source
flowers.
and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
But nobody
Flowers
talks
too.
about Diamond D.
Diamond D is slept on. To me,
I feel
I
like
think that project is slept on, and him as a producer is slept on.
I agree. I would agree with that. What you say, Lone? I mean,
I mean, I think he's up there as well. But I personally would probably put Large Professor as more slept on, if that's even a thing. You know what I mean? But I would definitely say they're both in there.
I'm not mad at that. Let's go to
Digging in the crates.
number 6, Lords of the Underground. Here come the Lords.
No.
No,
That song had 2 hit singles. No.
you ain't going on that one. Huh?
Not
I
for
don't
no
even know what
album.
this is. What are we talking about?
It says it's another.
Boom shakalaka.
You know that.
Here Come the
You know
Lords. That album was all on the radio. No.
Lone, you know some joints on here when you hear it.
Okay, what year are we talking about?
Chief Rocker.
You know Chief Rocker.
Come on, Chief Rocker was
that.
Chief Rocker was on NBA Jam Street.
Yeah.
Which was
Volume 2.
Volume 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I know it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Which I saw you saw that tweet, but they need to bring that back.
That
by the
album
way.
wasn't John Blaze enough to be on the list talking about it.
Who's the
was
artist
slept on.
again?
Lords of the Underground.
No, Lords of the Underground. If you told me their second album, somehow we slept on that. I no, but
So y'all not going for this one.
No,
I feel like
no,
the rest of them are all going to be the 80s, aren't they?
No,
No, you are wrong, sir. Uptown Saturday Night, Camp Low. Now I agree with this because if you think about it,
They invented mumble rap, kind of.
what?
No, I'm joking.
No, they definitely had their own language.
Yeah, I'm.
Geechee
They got this
Sway.
at number 5.
I don't know.
How we feel about this?
I don't think it's underrated because I listened to it and I was just like, it's cool.
I don't know, man.
I think it's underrated just because I remember thinking when I heard Lucchini,
Yep.
and even when I heard 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝐿𝗲𝗏
𝗏𝗏𝗏 High is
when
fire.
I first heard 𝗏𝗏𝗏 High, I heard off of a 12-inch, and then it wound up on the Great White Hype soundtrack. I bought that whole soundtrack for that song, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be it, and it just did not have the commercial impact I thought it was going to have, even though everybody knows Lucchini.
Let me ask, Jay Diff
But anything else though on there?
that's what I was about to
Crystal
ask.
Carrington, Bubbling.
That's what I was about to ask Terry.
Yeah, I mean, once
Is it
again,
is it an iconic album or is it
It ain't
iconic because
Lucchini.
of the single?
It ain't
I think
Lucchini.
it's more. I think it
Swing,
at the time
like, there were joints
the
on
way
there.
they were rhyming and their
Yeah.
style and things like that is what made them stand out.
And their fitness regime after the fact. There's some big buff swole dudes.
No, Camp Low.
Camp Low, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him recently to know that.
I saw him at A3C
Oh,
and I was like, wow, these guys got a nice fitness.
Is that what you?
fitness regimen.
Is that what you said?
No, I remember when they came here to the jazz.
They were
Kitchen.
like, you know.
just-
I
They
ain't
look
know
like
Camp Low was
themselves. I
out
didn't
here
know they-
swole.
I didn't know they go.
Good for y'all though.
Shout out to
Y'all-
MOP. They've been in the gym.
Okay.
Have they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
man.
shout out to MOP. All right,
I'm
black
low.
black on both sides, most deaf.
No,
I don't
that's
agree
not
with this.
underrated.
That's not underrated.
Yeah.
That album went gold.
Unless I've been in, we just
Nah,
been in a
that's not
certain
Umi
Circle.
circle.
Says Miss Fat Booty, Mathematics. Come on now.
Yeah, that was.
Lone, you looking up in the sky.
that was going.
Lone is looking up in the sky.
No, I like it. I'm just trying to think if it should have had more praise. That's all I'm thinking.
That album is dope to me, man.
As a true underground artist,
Yeah.
because he's a backpacker, not underground necessarily, but a true
Same
backpack.
thing, really.
Yeah, essentially. But
Back then, for
I
sure.
think he did impressive numbers with that album.
Yeah, like
You
I
said
said,
it
it
went
went
gold, right?
gold.
Yeah.
You know, I remember it's weird because
Raucous.
like Internal Affairs and Black on Both Sides were marketed basically. It looked like it was the same budget. It'd be at the top or the bottom. It'd be on the same page. They'd be talking about those particular albums. So
Umi Says video is fire.
yeah,
Oh, that's
Umi
right,
Says
Umi
was
Says,
was in
yeah.
a Michael Jordan. It's a Jordan commercial.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah,
This is
no.
why I asked, like, starting off, like, if we could develop, like, I wonder what their criterion for, like, actually what makes something, you know, like, underrated because
Because I'm waiting on some album like 𝗀𝗃 𝗀𝗃, like something like that.
Well, I got 3 left. I got
All right, what we
number
got?
3 is 𝗑𝗲𝗱 Let's Get Free.
No,
That's a dope
He said
album.
no.
Dope
these are albums that everybody who loves hip hop remember. Like this is
If you're a certain age.
Certain age, definitely. certain
Don't
But
age.
if
forget
you,
the age.
but you know,
Certain
if
clique
you
too,
care
because
about Rock the Bells,
I grew up with some people
There we go.
that probably have never heard the Dead Prez
So did I.
I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really like a lot of Dead Prez.
That first album was cold.
I only like a couple joints. It just doesn't move me.
Mm-hmm.
I can respect it.
Now this,
The DOC. No one can do it better.
That's a far cry right there.
That's a far cry.
There's no way, because I mean the DOC, no one
this is a
does
terrible list.
No one can do it better. Was like a pinnacle album.
Yeah.
that's some of Dr.
At the
Dre's
time.
best work.
I don't
Yes.
agree with this. I'm with y'all on this one. I don't agree with this. They got to pull
This made
But-
people really fiend for DOC to rap again, and he unfortunately had gotten in that car accident.
Tragedy of a Lyricist. I remember that episode of UMTV Rap.
Go ahead, Long. What was you about to
But-
say? What were you going to say?
If you weren't around them in that era, you don't hear of him at all.
But once again,
That album doesn't
if you
go past that time period.
You don't think it resonates past that time period?
I don't.
Hmm.
Because coming up, I didn't know anything about the DLC. Never saw him in anything. I mean, so
you saying this is the ultimate Heads album in your opinion?
I think it's a Heads album, and I think you have to be a certain age.
Certain age group.
But
I'm with you on that
But
one.
if you've been going to say Dre
Some
days
heat on there though.
for the past few years,
Yeah.
you're going to hear like he.
I mean, he
Funky
did a
Enough,
lot of
DLC,
stuff.
The
He
Doctor,
did a lot
The
of writing on the
Formula.
Chronic too.
No,
Good call.
like that's the album, and it's crazy. Other than the grand finale, which features NWA,
Yeah.
there's no cursing on that album, and it's one of the
Yeah.
hardest albums ever.
Yeah,
No,
The
no.
Formula is one of my favorite beats of all time.
Mind-blowing.
I don't know why, but
yeah. That whole
Whirlwind
album,
Pyramid,
though.
get out of
Yeah.
here.
yeah.
Like I said, if this was like Complex or something, I might get it.
But
you know,
y'all-
but you're talking about Rock the Bells.
I see.
I don't even know what their brand is. What is Rock the Bell's brand? I mean, I was LL, but what is
Rock
it?
the
though?
brand. Rock
No,
the
they got
brand.
a
I said Rock the brand.
X radio station or something.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
LL is behind a lot of that with,
Okay.
from XM, and he hosts a show on there.
I mean, I was familiar with the show. I just didn't know if there was
like
something
Rest in
more.
Peace Biz used to have a show on there where he spun. And,
Gotcha.
I know Top Speed's been on there a few times.
Yeah. Shout out to the homie Top Speed. All right, man. And number 1 on this
Half a list.
half is 𝗏𝗏 3030.
Okay,
They'll
yeah,
try
there you go.
30-30.
Yeah, there we go.
That makes sense.
So there we go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
sense because I barely even, as someone who considers myself to be ahead, I can't even really think of the names of the songs.
I'm not gonna cap. I can't either.
So that makes sense to me. But how you gonna have albums on this on here that have 3 and 4 hit singles?
So we said we're saying the DOC should be taken off. Most should be taken off.
Most.
Most Def. You know, what I mean? I hate.
But
them.
the only reason I did is because you pronounced the T extra hard.
I did, didn't I?
You're like most. Like,
Cut it out, man. I hate when he laugh like that. All right, so most Def.
He said it again. Really.
I didn't say the T is hard, man. Stop
There's
co-signing
no
him,
T in
man.
Most Def.
I get it, man. Camp Low. Are we keeping? We say Camp Low was properly placed.
No.
Okay, I think it is. I don't think
they belong on it anyways, but whatever.
I just think Lucchini was cold and Cooley High was cold, and I think that gave it legs.
No, there's 4 or 5 records on there that I just love.
Lords of the Underground. I know Jay Moore said it.
I can't really speak on that one.
Yeah,
The Diamond D joint.
Can't really speak on that one either.
I could see that one.
Yeah.
Per-
That's
I mean,
valid.
it's one of
That's
those-
valid.
Yeah.
because this is a super competitive time in rap, and if you weren't really paying attention, might have got
and
lost
he,
in the shuffle.
and he was super. He's always been super slept on.
Yeah, that's valid.
Ultramagnetic.
from the 80s, I don't, because this is when maybe 15 hip hop albums came out a year.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if
we explained what happened with Pharaoh. So
yeah,
and then Q-Tip was
I think they were wrong on that.
bad, man. Normally these lists.
Yeah, I mean, this next 10 better bring it because I'm sorry, this is.
Yeah, we got to do the next.
Like I
10
said,
when they release it.
What do you think? What do you think that belongs on there?
That's a good question.
I think of albums like I said, one of just off the top of my head.
Can we each give one?
Okay, I already gave my one. Dirty 30 by the Crew, and they were on Def Jam, and there was a big push behind them. That album to me was great. And if I were to introduce, that's an album I'd be like, what's an album I should check out that I probably never heard? I would say, and the thing is, only half of the songs are streaming now, and it's hard to find a hard copy. But I love that record.
What you
What'd
got?
you say?
It was a group called Crew.
Crew. Okay. Yeah,
The Crew.
I was thinking
smiley
while
face,
had a smiley face, and one was like a skull.
Yeah.
I love that record.
And just when you said the name, I was in deep thought. So yeah.
You got anything off top?
Yeah, I would
Quick.
say Murs and Ninth Wonder, or Murs 316, the 9th edition.
Oh,
Okay.
I think that's a classic record. I think
classic rap, classic album.
Yeah, I think it's front to back. It's dope. Yeah, I think it's some of Ninth's best work too.
I never thought about it like that.
And I think it's the best Murs and Ninth project.
Trilogy, they got 3, right?
I think like five or six.
I'm
or
sleep
something.
out. I didn't know they kept collaborating.
And I know it's underground, but it's definitely solid.
I used to listen to that, Mug. So I'm not really mad at you there. Jay, if you got anything off the top of your head, just pops up. I even see Red August thinking. He looking in there.
Oh, I've actually said this one before. 𝗀𝗲 Beneath the Surface.
I can see that.
I'm a pass on that one.
Yeah,
But when I
I
think
like it, but I'm a pass on that one.
there's still people who don't know Little Brother's music. I would say the Minstrel Show. There are people that like, maybe people who listen to this show, but there are people who consider themselves fans of hip hop who really don't know that record.
Yeah. Live from the tape deck with 𝗀𝗄 and 𝗏𝗘𝗧.
Yeah,
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
There's
And to
so many from that era.
To Jay Moore's
But-
point about the minstrel show, I've had conversations and I've had to sway people into believing how good Fonte is. Like I've had back and forth battles with people about, y'all really think he's that good? Y'all really think he's that? I'm like, yes, he's that good.
Nah, he's nice.
And Little Brother as a group has some iconic music. They just do, to me. So I don't know, man. It's all subjective at the end of the day.
I mean, there's tons of records that. I mean, we could even argue that 𝗑𝐻's new record is super slept on, even though he got more love on it than his
Jim Crow?
previous. Yeah, Jim Crow the musical. You know what I mean? Like
That album
there's
is
so
amazing.
many. There's so many levels to this conversation.
That album is amazing.
Because if we're talking straight underground, I could spout off.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shout out to the homie 𝗑𝐻 on the mixing and mastering. That album is phenomenal. Yeah, salute to the homie. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next topic. Shout out to the chat. We see y'all as always. Thanks for being active. So Snoop, not only did he drop a cold album back on Death Row, he actually got the rights and purchased the label Death Row, which I think is great marketing for him dropping the album, which I listened to. I think is really good. Production is amazing. Shout out to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I saw some videos of him with Daz, some things that I know they have some things that are in the works. What do you all think about Snoop purchasing Death Row? Is this something that can be turned into relevancy in hip hop now? We know it's an older brand. We know the stories. We've all heard everything. But do you think Snoop can flip this and turn this into something lucrative in today's age? Because he already has his album on as an NFT, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but I believe I saw that on.
Well, he said that
his IG.
it was going to be an NFT label.
NFT label. I didn't hear that part. Okay. Yeah. What do y'all think about this, man?
Voice.
I think it's dope. I think it's dope that he's trying to revive the brand, in my personal opinion. But what do you think, Jay Moore, when you see that?
You know, as somebody who remembers that era, I think it's dope because, you know, someone who was, you know, outside of Dre, the first album to be released on Death Row as a solo artist, you know, you love to see things come full circle like that, you know, but also, you know, there's still some details that I would like to know, you know, because from what I understand, he doesn't have ownership of the full catalog.
Right.
He, you know, but he can maintain certain branding deals dealing with Death Row. And I still think that's dope just to have some sort of ownership over something that's so iconic to people, specifically my age. You know, I think about there are younger people who understand the impact of Death Row just because, you know, we had the Straight Outta Compton movie that came out in 2015. It's crazy to think that that's almost 7 years ago.
Doesn't even feel like it was that long ago.
You know, there was the Tupac movie, which wasn't as well received.
I haven't even seen it.
Yeah.
We all went to go see that movie.
Oh, we did?
Yeah. And then
we went to see it. It's all right, though. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Before we shot a show.
We definitely went to go see it. Don't worry about it.
Was I there?
Yes, you were.
You were there.
I don't remember.
Once
that.
again, not particularly well received. You know, and you still see like I'll still see kids that have on like the logo of Death Row on their T-shirts and stuff. They probably sell it at Hot Topic or whatever now. You know that's how those things go.
We'll be raping you.
All right, calm down.
Let's get that one.
But you know, I think it's once again, when you talk about branding, this is really where the money and a lot of the influence is. And, you know, I'm not really worried about Tupac not owning, you know, certain things as far as the catalog and the masters. Snoop. But if he can really create a situation to where, you know, there are NFTs and, you know, he can make sure people get the money from the actual T-shirts and merchandise that have, you know, their images on it. I think that'd be great, you know, and even if he can usher in, you know, a couple of new stars from the West Coast,
that's what
you know, I think that, you know, plus it gives him a certain leverage, you know, with him having his position at Def Jam. You just never know what he'll be able to turn. He's made some really smart business moves in the last few years. So I think it's a feel good story, but actually I think it's a good story as far as business is concerned for him to go ahead and create those partnerships. So shout out to Snoop, man. Like I don't have any negative thing to say about this. I think it's great that, you know, because if it's not going to be Dre or the Dog Pound or Rage or somebody who was in that original
kept it in the family,
group of people who are on death row, I'm really glad to see Snoop take control of this and have the control of that branding.
Jay Diff, can Snoop make Death Row pop? In your personal opinion, in 2022?
Yeah, I think there's no problem with him making it pop. I'm glad that it's not in Hasbro's hands anymore. It's good that he got it back to where it's supposed to be, because I mean, obviously Hasbro probably just had it as a money grab. They know they can make some money off of it real quick, which I'm sure they did. But for him to be in a position to buy the record label that pretty much, well, not pretty much, that did start his career off is dope. And he's not under surveillance of a dictator that's, you know what I'm saying, making running the record label like a mafia or whatever he was doing. Everybody knows that story. But for him to be able to put his friends back in position to win as well under his own umbrella, I mean, that's solid.
Snoop said it feels good to have ownership of the label I was part of the beginning of in my career as one of the founding members. He said this is extremely meaningful moment for me. So that says it right there. It's full circle with him. And this is something I will definitely be watching. Snoop is icon, man. We know that as it relates to hip hop. He can do anything.
One of the best artists, one of the best hip hop artists ever.
Facts.
But nobody ever mentions him in that category like that.
Yeah.
But it's not just based off of rap. It's based off his figure. You know what I'm saying? What he's done, what he's amassed, and how many people know who he is. Like, he can go anywhere in the world and everybody knows who Snoop is.
He's America's number one pitch man.
Yeah.
Now think about it. He's got a wine. He has his own gin line, and he does commercials for Corona. Most people don't have wine, liquor, and beer lined up paying them. It just doesn't work like that.
True. What you think, Lone? Any thoughts on this? Feelings?
Not really, but I would say that it being Snoop, I do think Snoop is probably, arguably, the biggest hip hop face,
most recognized
persona, recognizable. You know, maybe Eminem. I don't know. You know what I mean? Just because of who he is, but I don't know. So I feel like Snoop just transcends so much. I would be interested to see like what the music is that comes out. You know, if it's similar to like a West Coast Renaissance, like TDE kind of was. You know, I think that would be kind of cool to have those two kind of embodiments of all the talented artists that are there, maybe release stuff like that. You know, I saw where 𝗀𝗏 had done some stuff with the new Dr. Dre singles.
He's dope.
And I've been a huge fan of 𝗀𝗏 for a long time.
Yeah, you put me on.
So it's, I don't know. I feel like I would be interested depending on who he puts out there. You know, like if you think back to like TDE and to kind of the newer labels like Dreamville and stuff like that, anytime that they announce a name, we're like, oh, even if we don't know them, we're like, they're probably good. Mm-hmm. You know, and we know that there's tons of really talented artists out there. So I'd be curious to see who he can prop up and put on a higher platform. And to be honest, I mean, I know this is a projection just because I'd like to see it, but I'd like to see some actual artist development, so something like that would be cool.
Well, the album that he dropped before this Back on Death Row, the Algorithm, actually has some artists that will probably fit right in the cut in that fold, because it was pretty much just a compilation.
Right. I still haven't heard it, but you guys said it was really good.
It's good, top to bottom.
I need to listen to both of these. I just haven't been in a listen to music space. But
to Terry's point about Algorithm, I didn't recognize a lot of people on that project at all. A lot of those records were by people that were new to me that I had to go through research on. Yeah, I
feel like too. When I saw he said they were going to be like the first NFT label. Very interesting too, because you don't really need labels with NFTs because it's a lot. It's very, I don't know, user centric. It's like breaking away from that mold. So I'd be curious to see what that kind of looks like. And I mean, as much as anything else, but as far as like the nostalgic aspect, that's cool. It was cool that if Death Row's coming back, I'm happy that it's like Snoop or, Dre. Obviously Dre's got his own thing, or somebody that was under that fold, so that part I can, that is cool. So, and, Snoop's aged well in hip hop
gracefully
in general.
Yeah, for real.
So I'm happy I've been I enjoy following what Snoop does, and I think he's
I'll check
great.
I'll have to check back with you once you listen to both of those projects, especially from a production standpoint. I think you're gonna enjoy them. I really do. It's high quality music, man, both of them. And Snoop is just he's that dude, man. Like y'all all said, he's pretty much that dude as it relates to hip hop. So shout out to the homie Snoop. We wish him well, and we'll all be watching.
Yep.
Shout out to the chat as well. Let's go ahead and shout out our partners real quick. I'm giving shout outs left and right. And we'll be back with the second half.
Yep. Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Printfinity is a screen printing shop based in Indianapolis, owned and operated by our own DJ Jay Diff. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member for as little as $3 a month. All details on newoldheads.com.
If I can find the article that I had.
Por favor.
Where is my article? Y'all bear with me.
See.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about?
Well, the New York mayor has been
drill rappers meet with New York City mayor.
Yes, because the New York City mayor, I'm gonna get his name.
So what do you think about this? What do you think about the drill rappers that are meeting with him? Do you think that they're gonna have a good business meeting?
I think they will. Will it translate into helping with all the stuff that's going on? I don't believe that.
Like what type of stuff?
All these rappers out here shooting and killing themselves before the age of like 23. There's a lot. That trend has been. We beat it with a dead horse. If you count all these kids,
we beat it with a dead horse.
I said you could.
Oh, okay.
We could talk about it every episode. That's how fast these kids are here dying.
Have you ever thought? So you just picked up a dead horse?
It's a whole horse.
Yeah, I don't want to beat no horses now. We don't want to get nothing wrong with that. But
Peter's watching.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, you gotta have to have a lot of upper body agility to beat a horse. To use a horse to beat somebody.
Even if it was like one of them little small, like young Sebastian.
All right, y'all, man.
Young Sebastian.
Yeah.
Lone said you gotta have a lot of.
Yeah.
You gotta have a lot of.
Little mini horse.
Yeah.
A little pony.
Yeah.
You ever see like a mini horse?
Just picturing somebody beating somebody with a horse.
They put a hat on a little mini horse so you don't feel sorry for him.
Had a mini horse looking monkey.
Mini horse don't want to wear that hat?
Yeah.
That's how we get minotaurs.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let me get myself together, man. Yeah, you stupid,
Little
man.
mini horse.
Now I'm picturing what. All right, never mind.
Wow.
All right, man.
I was trying to make a
Tim, don't beat it with a dead horse.
Yeah,
a Parks and Rec.
Yeah, now you beating it with now
reference. I don't think it was called Young Sebastian. It was Lil Sebastian. I made it hip hop for no reason at all.
A horse named Sebastian.
Yeah,
little young Sebastian out here.
Hey, man.
Have you ever met a person named Sebastian?
I know one.
I bet their middle name's Wakefield.
Sebastian
I know one.
𝗀𝗱𝗱. I don't know him, but I remember
I played ball.
Yeah.
You only know one. All right, man. Thank you for putting that in
We
my
call him
mind,
Sebi
Lon.
for short.
Yeah.
Not really.
But the New York City mayor's name is Eric Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sounds like a wrestler name.
low key it does. But Mano, after he came out and was basically, just dragging drill rappers and the concept of drill and all the violence that it leads to, Mano set up a meeting with, some of the drill rappers, and they all sat and talked to him and kind of explained where they come from an artistic standpoint. And from what I read, he left with an understanding, but he still was looking for, accountability from the artists and from the rappers. I think the meeting is a dope idea, but it's just my personal opinion. I don't know if it's going to change the rate that we're seeing, the stuff that we're seeing as it relates to these young rappers. I don't know if y'all agree. Jay Moore, I'll come to you first. What do you think, man? How powerful is this meeting? I think it's a dope concept, dope idea. Shout out to Mano.
Yeah, I don't think this meeting with the mayor, Mano, or anybody else is going to help as long as
Absolutely.
the systemic problems
Absolutely.
are there. The problems are with lack of opportunities within the workspace, poorly funded schools, the fact that everything is way more expensive now, and people still got to find a way to eat.
They should be drilling the mayor, not the other way around.
Yeah, like that. Why are you on these rappers? These kids are just trying to make a way out of no way. And, I don't ever blame 20-year-olds for 50-year-old and 100-year-old problems. And that's where we're at right now. We think, okay, we'll sit down and talk to these rappers and maybe they won't make this violent music. If this violent music is how I am somehow able to feed myself, my mother, and if I got a kid, maybe I'm able to feed him too, then you can't tell me nothing about what I'm doing is wrong. I got to eat. Especially
when the music is a product of the environment.
Yeah, it's a product of the fact that we have left these. We always act like it's these kids are just wild for being to be wild. That's why I feel like when we've talked about like C. Dolores Tucker before. Like I can't act like these aren't my children, even though I don't have children of my own. Me being almost 45 years old, and I see some of the things they're doing. Somewhere I feel like, somewhere we didn't speak to these kids the way we should have spoke to them. We were always, once we got to a certain point, we were looking down on them. I'm not sure if you saw like a statement that RZA put out. He was like, he said something to like, oh, it's just thuggery and violence in the music. And as much as I love the RZA and Wu-Tang, like, what do you think a lot of your music was about?
I mean, you had a horrorcore group.
Now you're
facts.
Now you're, knocking on 50 years old if RZA's not already 50, and now you're looking down at the like I said, you can't look at these youngsters like they're not your kids. I would rather hear what they have to say than to go in there and me to point my finger and tell them you need to stop this, because clearly the problem is something that has a lot more to do with how we've treated them and how we've raised them than just they're just doing it to be wild.
Lone, you said something that caught my attention. You said it's the opposite. They need to be kind of expand on what you said as it relates to them need to be speaking to the mayor.
Jay touched on most of it, really. I mean, what Jay is saying is what I absolutely agree with. You can't get mad at the product of, they are the product of the system and the machine that cranks them out like that.
Right.
Or any type of thing. Like when we talk about, like, this type of conversation is political. It is very much like let me gather my thoughts here, because this could go so many different ways. But to kind of what Jay was saying, I have a hard time putting any type of blame on violence or anything like that manner on an artist of for influencing other people when they are already being influenced in their entire life by and being thrust upon something just for existing. And that goes for us too. Everything that we do, if stuff is hard, then we react however we react, and we've had certain privileges of growing up in certain eras, in different places that may have been better than other places based upon all these systemic issues. You know what I mean? and everything. And so I don't know. I'm not out here trying to advocate for violence or anything like that. But that's not even the conversation to me. You know, like I feel like we can't talk about any of that until like we need to talk about the state sanctioned, state funded violence way before we talk about all this other stuff.
Like you have,
like we're not there.
Yeah, you have underfunded schools. You got closed libraries. You take away, pre-K, and then you wonder why. Okay, this kid's 13 and now he's in the street. It's like you provided no resources for him, but all of a sudden you look up and it was like, well, why do the police in New York basically have an unlimited blank check of a budget? You know, and wherever you got to cut corners, you'd be like, all right, well, we got to close this school. We got to shut down this particular thing. But, you know, the police are given an unlimited budget. And this isn't just a New York problem. Right. It's everywhere in the United States when you look at it, because whenever there's a lawsuit against the police.
The inner city.
Yeah, everywhere, you know, because whenever the police do something wrong, you know, where do you, and they get sued and they lose, where do you think the money comes from? Yep. That means the library's got to close. That means, you know, teachers have to buy their own school supplies because this, you know, the city and the state can't provide those resources. So no one wants to talk about that, you know, because everybody, you know, when everybody talked about, defund the police, and that was such a controversial thing, you know, having many family members who are in education and friends as well, you know, they have been consistently over the last 25 to 30 years been defunding public education from the college to pre-K levels. And no one's, you know, you can't get anybody to be upset about that, you know. So like I said, if anything, these youngsters need to go in and talk to the mayor and be like, what are you going to do to stop the violence? Don't come and talk to me.
Jump in there, Terry.
For starters, how can you ban something that you don't control?
You can't.
You can't ban it because, I mean, you can go make music and put it out and it can go wherever you want it to go. It doesn't have to be controlled right or represented right in New York City. A lot of times what these politicians do is more of trying to point blame at something else. So they can't figure out how to change things. So it goes back to how we brought up hip hop the last episode, how everything is blamed on hip hop. Anything that has to do with hip hop or any city or anything that your environment created, now it's that problem. That's the whole reason why this is going on. No, it starts where, like Jay Moore said, the schools closing, libraries, things like that. It starts in the home. If you've split up these homes, these kids don't have fathers in the house, and they're pretty much being raised in the neighborhood, essentially. So I mean, they're products of their environment, and not to say that the message is dope or whatever. I mean, I don't mess with drill. I don't like drill personally,
right?
But at the end of the day, regardless of whatever kind of music it is, it's still brought up under the cultural umbrella that's hip hop, which is about explaining and telling stories about where you're from and what happened and things of that nature. And this is not to condone any violence on anybody, but you can't be the mayor of a city and blame your problems on people making drill music. Chicago has the same issues as far as drill music is concerned, because I mean, that's where it's from. That's where drill music was originated, but still
the violence was there before.
Exactly.
Talk to them.
Violence has always been in both of these states.
Yeah.
They were in the states before hip hop even existed.
And hip hop's always been reflective. Like,
it's always a reflection of what's going on outside.
Yeah, it's always been
literally telling you stories of things that are really going on. These are not fairy tales.
And you know what? This is the crazy thing, because nobody likes to actually look at statistics and pay attention to numbers. Like, okay, violence and crime is up over the last couple years, but if you look at what it was 25, even 30 years ago in the 90s, it was way higher then.
Yeah.
Violence, and especially in New York, and murder, and New
York was the murder capital.
All the statistical categories that measure crime in the United States of America are down and have been in steady decline for about 30 years now.
Yeah.
But it's just that, like, now we got 24-hour news. We got the, you know, social media to make it seem like everything is way worse than what it is.
Everybody has an opinion.
You know, everybody didn't have an opportunity to speak on this, but you know, everybody does have the opportunity to actually go look at the numbers and see what it actually looks like. Now, as someone who has unfortunately had lost people to violent crime. Like, you know, when I say the numbers are down, that doesn't really, it only gives me so much of where it makes me feel better, because I have a couple of friends who aren't here because of people going out here and wilding and shooting people for no good reason.
Right.
You know, so I understand on the other end where people think we have to do something right now, especially if you've been a victim or you have been close to a victim of crime. But we have to be also real about the actual causes of crime and not just be reactionary to
the problem
the
is,
crime
and
that
it's
has
the
happened.
same thing with what goes on in America when anything happens, like a police or somebody kills somebody or does something they're not supposed to do. You only care when it happens at that point in time. When it's fresh, you care about it, and then let a little bit of time go by, like a month or two, then everybody forgets about it. Then we repeat the same cycle. And that's what's pretty much going on. When you can't figure out how to fix these problems, you want to keep pointing and blaming things that don't have anything. Well, I mean, I will say it does contribute, just because it is a message that's telling you about what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's not the fault of these rappers for telling these stories.
Because what you're saying, one of the reasons why we move on from the situation, if you will, is because you can only deal with trauma for so long.
Yeah.
Right. And if we're not going to actually address any of the systemic issues that will prevent it, then what are we doing? You know what I mean?
I think it's very irresponsible to just cast that out there and say it's the drill rappers. Just put it all on the drill rappers. I don't like how that looks.
But this has been going on for decades, years. I mean, Trump did it with the
Central Park
5. You know, this goes back to the United States' deep-rooted racism problem, right? And built, you know, how it's built into everything. You know, you mentioned like the defund the police. Look, if we actually addressed racism within the system of policing, then there wouldn't be lawsuits. And then what happens? Then taxpayers don't get that money drawn from it. So it seems like it would make sense to maybe address the racism in policing.
You know, if you're an actual fiscal conservative,
why aren't you
should want to address racism in a systemic way in policing. That you should have. You know, when I saw a statistic, it said like the city of Chicago has paid out somewhere in the manner of $300 million in the past decade in wrongful death and excessive force lawsuits. Like, if I'm someone who calls myself a conservative, and my conservatism, I know I messed that word up, is built around.
We thought that
is built around fiscal responsibility. I should definitely want all this to be addressed to the point where it doesn't happen anymore. But no one wants to have that conversation because, you know, somewhere along the line, you feel like police brutality here and there keeps you a little bit safer in your neighborhood.
Also,
so you don't
some
mind
of your friends' pockets lined, because I mean, we already know about the prison system. So
talk to them.
And it starts early with kids too. I mean, you're literally with kids, the same kids that we're talking about that's doing this drill rap stuff. As soon as they do one little thing in school, what do they do to them? They suspend them,
expelled,
or they send them to juvenile. It's like they're trying to put them into the system.
I mean, we've talked about the classroom to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
This is all well documented.
So if you're doing this to people, imagine the effect that has on people.
Yeah.
So.
And then even go further in how we have no type of rehabilitation for people that are in prison to get out.
Right.
Prison is nothing more than grad school.
Good point, Long.
Yeah.
It's all what George Carlin say is all messed up and it's all bad for you. Yeah. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I censored it, but
yeah, I see what you did there. Well, y'all killed that. I don't have anything else to say. That's all bars from you all. Appreciate the feedback. All right, but let's get this last topic in before we get out of here. Let's talk about evolving with artists. I make this comparison because we have the homie Big Crit dropped a project, and I kind of compare this to sports figures. You hear people talking about LeBron's legacy. Oh, this is going to hurt his legacy.
I think you hear that because you want to hear that. I never heard
don't nobody else say that? Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah.
You never hear LeBron's legacy brought up?
Only from you.
It's just me?
Yep, pretty much.
Well, I'll show you some stuff.
No, you don't have
to. No, it's okay.
Yeah, I ain't gonna show him that. But well, that's the comparison I'm using. Sports comparison. This Crit album, Digital Roses Don't Die, has been very polarizing from what I'm seeing on just people at conversations I've already had, or social media outlets, or wherever you want to get it from. But as we evolve as fans with artists, do we go overboard sometimes with albums that might be a little bit to the left from what an artist normally does? Do we hold that as a demerit or as something that kind of tanks the legacy, or do we grow with them, appreciate the growth, and then look for the next project? Because I've seen a lot of 50-50 on this one. I listened to it, and I had a conversation with a couple Crit fans. I think the production is brilliant, but it is completely different from what I thought Crit's project was going to be, and I had to listen to it a couple times. I normally don't have to do that with Crit. So I can appreciate the growth, I can appreciate the artistic value, but this might not be it. So that's just my personal opinion.
I didn't listen to it, but just speaking on that whole idea, I mean, people that know me probably know, but I'm very non-celebrity worship type person. Like, I don't care about anything. I think it's all goofy. And that goes even for people that I like and that I'm fans of. So right. I can personally want Crit to make a specific type of project and to knock all the things off the checklist, right? Or Fonte would probably be that artist for me, right? But if Fonte dropped a super out, left field type record, which he kind of has,
yes,
then I just I try my best to just appreciate it for what it is, because I know that he's an artist and he's going to do it. And it's just like Andre when he dropped Love Below, right?
Exactly.
Who was expecting that?
Good comparison.
I think we have to, as critics in general, and everybody's a critic now. Everybody is a critic. I don't know. I think we just need to allow space for people to be who they are and just like what you like, talk about what you like, and don't talk about what you don't like. To me, that's the formula.
I can dig it.
I like that. Go ahead, Jay Diff.
From this point of view, as far as Crit is concerned and artists in general, me personally, I'm not really a big fan of this album. It's cool. I understand once I actually went back and listened to the whole thing, I got the story. I understand it. In some cases, these artists have to get something off their heart, off their chest. They have to put it out there in order for them to move forward and continue the creative process. In some cases, that becomes this artist's magnum opus. In some cases, it becomes a miss. Like, the fans don't really jive with it. But it's something that this artist had to do in order to kind of cut through and evolve into the artists that they are going to be later down the line. I'm all with growth. I want artists to grow. It's one of the problems that I talk about and address with Drake. Every one of his albums sound the same.
Yep.
And I like Drake, but you're following that same format. I like to see artists take chances in order to kind of, see if that's where they want to go, and them kind of listen to it or get in the groove and go back and forth with themselves. All right, I'm kind of done with that phase now. Let me move on. And like you brought up with Andre 3000. Andre 3000 is an artist. Like, he literally doesn't care. He's going to take whatever chance he wants. In his case, he hits every time though, because he's a creative genius. And that's not to say that Crit isn't a creative genius. It's just that Crit is known for a certain sound, at least for me. Mm-hmm. So when I'm listening to Big Crit, I'm wanting to kind of hear something else. Like even the EP that he dropped prior to this, that had the energy track on it.
Yeah.
So if he had went that route with this album, because that's kind of the same kind of groove that I felt.
What you want from him?
Yeah, right? That's more so where I'm comfortable with Crit.
Yeah.
This here, like, it's not whack by any means.
Nah.
But it's just not for me necessarily.
But do you think that maybe when we're using Andre as a comparison, do you think that back when the Love Below, I mean, I remember when that came out, it wasn't necessarily received great across the board.
I thought it was dope the first time I heard it.
Really? But it wasn't.
I agree with him.
But
in
it
terms
wasn't
of
received because there are a lot of people that were super outcast that loved Dre for rhyming.
Yep.
In the way that he was.
They did the same thing on AT-Aliens though. So on AT-Aliens, they were saying that Outkast really wasn't hitting anymore either.
I wouldn't
So maybe
say,
I'm weird in the sense that I like those chances that they were taking because they were hits, in my personal opinion.
I wouldn't compare the risk level though from the first album to ATLiens versus them coming out of, I'm getting old. What was that? What was before? What preceded?
Aquemini?
No,
Stank
On You.
Yeah.
I think the jump from Stank On You to Love Below is way big.
No, it's big.
You know what I'm saying?
It's big on Dre's end.
Not Big Boys.
Not
Yeah.
Big Boys. Yep.
And I think maybe it helped because they dropped a double album too, potentially. But I don't know. Maybe it's too soon for that for Crit. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I mean, you said you felt that way initially, but you know, not everybody did.
Yeah,
you know?
well, there's a story behind it, so I understand why he did it.
Yeah.
Because it's something personal to him. Kind of similar to how when J. Cole dropped For Your Eyes, or I can't remember the title of it.
Was it Force Hills?
For Your Eyes Only?
No, For Your Eyes. Yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
So that was an album that he had to get out there. It was a homage to his homeboy that got killed.
Right.
He wanted to get that album out pretty much as a letter to his homeboy's daughter. So it didn't hit the same way as his other albums. And I appreciate him for doing it. That's dope for him to get in that mind frame and that artistic state in order to do that and get that off his heart and move forward. That's kind of same thing I see with this Crit album, is that he had to get this off his chest in order to kind of move forward artistically.
I think along what you said is what I can put on myself as being a person that does this. When you talked about maybe putting too much weight on the concept of it being so far left, instead of removing the fan part of it and looking at it from an artist standpoint, where we're all alluding to, maybe he had to do it, or maybe there was a concept behind it, or maybe there was a reason behind it. And I always use Electric Circus as an example because Common, one of my favorite rappers, threw me completely off. I had to come back to appreciate that later. You know what I mean? And even with this one, you know, to Terry's point, there's stuff on there that I love about it. It's kind of,
it's not whack though
at all, but it just kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't see it coming.
To me, it's more like just and I'll let you talk, Jay. But to me, it's just to me, it's more of a philosophy. You know, like I try my best. I practice this to try to come at things from an egoless state.
Yeah.
So to take myself out of it, and I'm not good at it, but I'm getting better at it. But you know, it's like if I don't like it, then it's like, ooh, it wasn't for me, you know, and that's okay, you know, and I try not to speak negative on stuff. I just try to let it live.
That line that you said at the end is the one I've worked on, and that's okay. Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not for me. It's not going to end the world or anything.
No.
You know?
Exactly.
You can't microscope somebody that's artistically inclined like that. I mean, there's no point in doing that because you have no merit on their career or what they're going to do next regardless.
And you don't know why, you know, and stuff like that. And you know they're good. So it's like,
he's beyond certified in my book. So this isn't going to do
you know,
anything
I actually
that.
like the record. I like the record.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a completely music from the production standpoint.
Oh, man.
I mean, there's parts where he's singing on there, so it throws you off.
He sings a lot.
You know, to the point where, like, you know, it's almost like, okay, is he trying? You know, it's almost like first Crit album. Like, if you have some of the little baddies over, you want to throw on some hip hop, you want to vibe out a little bit, you can throw this Crit album on. You usually don't say that about Crit albums because it really is for people who want to hear him rhyme.
True.
But you know, I like the overall vibe of it. But you know, even when you take it to, like, if your favorite Jay-Z song is Big Pimpin', you're not gonna like anything on 444.
Yeah,
you know, like you weren't really, you're not really on the ride sometimes for people's growth. Yeah, you know, maybe that's because you just expect something from someone, or it could be just because, look, you're not growing at that same pace. Or you have.
I like to holler at broads at the mall.
Yeah, if you still hollering at broads at the mall, you don't want to hear about financial responsibility and being faithful to one woman,
especially if you go to the mall.
Yeah, you know, so you know, like
Who goes
I said,
to a mall?
you can't really be mad. I mean, you can't be mad at fans because sometimes everybody can't come along on a ride with you.
That's true.
You know, but at the same time, I can't be mad at an artist because he decides that, you know, what he was doing 5 to 10 years ago is no longer who he is, and that can't be a reflection of his art. So I think that, you know, everyone just has to kind of make their own. You know, there was a time I really loved Spice One. You know, and even now when I listen to, like, it takes me back to that place where I love Spice One, but like I don't know what Spice One's new music sounds like. I'm not really checking, if he's still talking about gang banging and drinking malt liquor, I'm not there with you, fam.
Question is, what were you doing when you were listening?
I was probably too young to be listening to Spice One. That's probably what it was.
Okay.
I didn't know any better.
I was just checking.
Just like I was too young to be.
First time you heard what 187 meant.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was probably too young. I was too young, honestly, to be listening to the Chronic and Doggy Style, but at the same time, it resonated with me at the time, and that's just kind of how music can hit you, because music marks time. But like I said, you just can't be mad at, sometimes an artist is going to evolve past you and what you're doing in your life, and that's okay.
Yeah. Even like not even musical artists, like an artist or like painting artists, they all go through different phases where they might paint a certain way. You know what I'm saying? They have to get that out. It's kind of like getting through those creative processes in order to kind of grow forward and find something else.
Yeah, it's just stages in the evolution of the human being. We all grow in different ways and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
All right.
I can dig it. I think that's going to do it for this episode. As I always say, all the education you need this year is at newoldheads.com. That's everything involved with what we got going on. Y'all stick around for the post show and don't beat anybody with a dead horse. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.